Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into comic book movies, blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined again by my co-host, Devin. And today we're going to be covering and reviewing the infamous, the long-awaited Morbius, the new Marvel Legend, hits theaters April 1st.
Marvel Legend, they say.
Marvel, I'm not going to lie, dude. Every single time I saw that trailer and they said that towards the end, I chuckled. I really chuckled.
It's ridiculous.
I'm like, wow, Marvel Legend. They're really trying to ride on the coattails of the Marvel Cinematic Universe here. But before we get into today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at FilmOptix. That is Optix with an X, or email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, back at it again. What is this, our fourth review this year? No, week. Sorry.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Well, technically our third review, but it was our fourth episode of the week because we talked about the slap heard around the world of the 2020 Oscars. It's so funny because now for whatever won that year, I mean, I'm very excited that Coda won, like as we talked about, but that year, this year, will forever be known as the year that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
You see Chris Rock's sales for his tour have gone up like 100%.
I did not know he had a side business.
Yeah, stand up.
Oh, stand up. I thought you said something else. I do apologize.
Yeah, tour.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it kind of like, I'm surprised you keep seeing like everyone's doing like the cutaway to Everybody Hates Chris, but like there's another cutaway that I still haven't seen, and I'm not sure if it's too late to post it on my side. I don't want to give it away on the podcast because it's a secret. But if you watch How I Met Your Mother, you know, for sure. But as I mentioned before, we are going to be covering Marvel. Oh, I got Sony's newest and like villain verse, I guess you can call it. That technically is what it is.
I don't want to call it anything.
It's and like as soon as I watched this movie, it made me think of the meme of oh my gosh, of Bernie Sanders, and he's like, once again, I'm asking for your financial support. For this to be like, once again, Sony, I'm asking you to sell the Spider-Man film rights back to Marvel Studios because they
have a stranglehold.
Whew, man, you know what? I think Kevin Feige had the right idea. Like he literally yeeted and said, okay, we're gonna put Venom and Spider-Man for like a hot second, and then he's gonna dip out, and
then send him back home.
But it seems,
and we'll take a drip of your Venom symbiote, and then we'll send you back.
Yeah, exactly. Although it still makes me wonder, they couldn't just had like a specific rock or like, a meteorite just hit Earth in the MCU universe. Like they had to bring Venom over in order to get the symbiote on, into the MCU. I thought that was a little bit odd, but I guess it works, but
so Sony is really abusing this Doctor Strange spell. That's what I'll say.
I would agree there for sure,
and they're using it incorrectly.
Very, very incorrectly. It's kind of just giving them the pass to kind of do whatever they want. And hey, like
no matter how little sense it makes.
Yeah. I actually have to ask you a question before we get into our review here. Did you get the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse trailer?
Yeah. That's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Is the trailer before.
I got that in Doctor Strange for sure. I forgot what else I got. Nothing too. Oh yeah. They started repurposing the oh my gosh, what was it? The new Top Gun movie, Maverick. I'm like, I've seen this a million times.
Doesn't have a release date.
Yeah. No. Maybe. I think it does. I can't remember. No, it showed a release date.
The trailer just says coming soon.
Oh, you know what? I might be wrong. I was thinking of the Spider-Verse trailer. I do apologize. But yeah, Devin, are you you ready to talk about Marvel's Batman?
They really want it to be.
I mean, there was definitely some Batman-esque feels for a second there. I was like, okay. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to Morbius.
You need a doctor?
I am a doctor. I should have died years ago. People all over the world have my disease. I'm here to find a cure. We have to push the boundaries, take the risks. If you're gonna run, do it now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back with our Morbius review, aka More BS. I've
Perfect
heard
title.
Perfect title. I've heard it all throughout the internet. It still makes me chuckle. But the synopsis of this film is as follows: Biochemist Michael Morbius tries to cure himself of a rare blood disease, but he inadvertently affects himself with a form of vampirism instead, which is, I think, is a pretty straightforward synopsis here. This film, it's directed by Daniel Espinosa and written by Matt Sazama, Burk, Sharpless, and Roy Thomas, and stars Jared Leto, Michael Keaton, Arjona as well, and Adria. Sorry about that. It like
don't forget Fast and Furious star Tyrese Gibson.
I mean, a very forgetful role to be completely honest. Yeah. So the way how this is going to work, everyone, of course, if you've listened to our show before, but if you're a new listener, of course, we're always going to give our initial reaction first. So that's our non-spoiler section. Then we'll get into a little bit of spoilers, talk about a few Easter eggs here and there we might have missed. We'll get into final thoughts, and then we'll close out with our rating. So for the past few episodes, I've been having Devin go first, but I'm going to go first this time around for my initial reaction. I did not like this movie at all. I did not go into it hate watching, because I know a lot of people have. And I mean, looking up the Rotten Tomato scores for Morbius prior, I mean, I did look at them prior, and it didn't really sit well with me. But even prior to that, even I wasn't really looking forward to this at all.
The trailers did nothing, and not only that, they were also deceiving in what they showed, more so than any other Marvel movie, because then MCU is known for changing like trailers and adding and editing stuff out, but this was just like egregious.
I will agree to your point there about the trailer. The trailer felt as though it was more of like a horror type of, almost as if, the first episode of Moon Knight, you're seeing that inner turmoil between two sides of the same person. But for this movie, it really, it's Sony taking, it's just Sony taking these Marvel Spider-Man villains and turning them into anti-heroes or anti-villains. I guess that's also a thing. We kind of talked about that with Don't Breathe 2. So I guess I would say they're more anti-villains because Morbius does, he slashes a few throats here and there. But I have to say that Morbius really just feels like a reskin of Venom 2, or actually even just the first Venom.
Yeah, I'd say it's more like the first Venom. It's like the same type of storyline.
Yeah, because you have the girl, the love interest, and even though their relationship is a little bit different here in Morbius, they don't really start exploring that until like maybe halfway through the movie. But it really just, this movie just didn't really do anything for me. I can't sit here and say that I hated it, because I don't like saying that like, oh yeah, I hate a movie, because I feel like
I'll say it for you. I hated it.
Well, for me, it's like, I feel like hate is a very strong word. And it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a movie. As much as I don't like, the original Suicide Squad or Justice League, like they are terrible, terrible movies. But I will never like hate them, because it does take a lot to create a movie. It takes a lot of man hours and just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, to be completely honest. But for this one, it just didn't do it for me. The tomato meter for critics, sitting at 16% with 110 reviews. The audience score has bumped up to about 62%. So it's still labeled as fresh on the audience side, I guess, but rotten on critics with about 50 plus verified ratings for audience score, sitting at that 62% again. It's pegged as a mystery thriller / fantasy. Fantasy elements, obviously, they're definitely there. Mystery, not so much. Thriller, not as. I wanted this to be like a horror movie. I wanted this to be a superhero horror movie, because the best thing about the superhero genre, that you can also do with a lot of other genres is that, the genre can change at a moment's notice, and it doesn't always have to be, it's the hero and, like the cape and, like they finally get their iconic outfit and whatnot. But I
don't even know what genre I would give this movie.
Yeah, the trailer, I think, did a good job of saying, hey, this is going to be more of like a horror story of Michael Morbius and what he becomes, dealing with his rare blood disease. But it just didn't do too much. Jared Leto has his good, roles, but not as of late, to be completely honest. And it's just, this one for me, it wasn't, I can't say it was tough or like hard to get through, but I did notice a few weird editing cutaways and whatnot. I felt that was very, very odd. It didn't feel like the stakes were very high, especially when it came to the final battle. I was kind of,
if you would call it that.
Yeah, I can't even call it a fight. It was over so quick. It was, oh my gosh, it was insane. But I didn't really think that Morbius would have like an antagonist against him. And it also turned out
it's the same issue as Venom. It's just a mirror image of himself. And it just,
yeah.
But he looks even worse. The CGI is much worse.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Much, much worse.
Like it's like Halloween Town level. Like when Halloween Town makes a vampire, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. Matt Smith played Matt Smith is a phenomenal actor. If you know of his work, especially with like Doctor Who. But it's something is very missing here. It's almost, this movie kind of reminds me of the new Robin Hood movie when we had Taron Egerton and Jamie Foxx. There we go. It's like, you have two phenomenal actors in this movie. It's like, and that's going to drive people to go see it in theaters. That's what's going to put butts in seats. But the movie itself just is not a good fit. But that's how I feel about Morbius. It's just, it doesn't add anything to the Morbius mythos. I feel like we should have just had Morbius as a, separate.
Yeah, even like going into this movie, I don't think anybody would consider Morbius even like a top 10 Spider-Man villain. Like he's so far down on the list. Like for him to get a solo movie, it just never made sense.
Like honestly, if you've never obviously read the comics or even watched like 90s Spider-Man, you probably have no idea who Morbius is.
Even if you do, like he's barely in the show, and like
I think he's barely in the show, at least the 90s Spider-Man show. Like he has his own arc there, and that's really the only reason. That's how I was introduced to him, through the 90s TV show. And then I kind of read up on him, but I don't read comics as much as it's been a very long time since I've actually like read comics. But I try to keep up, but there's a lot going on. But the performances were like, okay, nothing really noteworthy. Like it just was like, I can't say that like Jared Leto did like a necessarily bad job, or Matt Smith. I think they, for the direction that they were given, I thought they did a good job for what they were, for what they were handed, especially with Adria, and Jared Harris as well. But I don't know. But I'm sorry, I've been talking up a storm here. I'm going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his non-spoiler thoughts on Morbius.
Man, oh man, there's just not that many positives to take away from this one for me. Like, just I'm trying to think of like any redeeming factors, and it's hard to come up with any. That's just how rough it was. Like, even for Venom, a lot of people don't like Venom, but I can see the quality in it because Tom Hardy is great. At the end of the day, you're at least going to have that to lean back on. For this one, you have Jared Leto, who is not on that level, and it's just there's nothing in the story. There's no humor. They try. There's a lot of attempts at jokes.
They try,
and there was my theater was just dead silent, like nothing happening.
I think I chuckled once, and I can't remember what joke it was. It was some kind of banter between Jared Leto and Matt Smith, but it's the entire movie is. And I didn't know there was like an antagonist again. Like it, you have Lucius and Michael. Lucius is actually nicknamed Milo
for some reason. We never find out why.
Yeah, I mean they kind of explain it, but not really. It's just they kind of they meet in this not an orphanage, but like a facility for people who have their rare blood condition. And I mean, and it's, it is a sad tale where they try to make it, a tragic type thing. But I mean, the buildup was kind of there. But like I said, I really wish I had something nice to say as well. It's very hard.
Like the CGI just fails for a lot of it. I mean,
the slow-mo parts were kind of cool. I was like,
yeah, for Morbius himself, it's okay CGI. It looks definitely goofy at times, but
when you're like close up, it looks like pretty good.
But the antagonist, oh my God, it's bad every time. Like shockingly bad. I just remember seeing a few scenes with him when they do close-ups on his face, and I just had to just shake my head.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's weird because I feel like the CGI was actually done better on Jared Leto than it was for Matt Smith, which is weird.
A lot better.
But it's like Jared Leto has that. Like the likeness for Morbius is there. Like I said, I think they did a great job when, he does turn. But I guess the transformation was a bit anticlimactic for a second because
it just happens.
Yeah. Like you just see him in the chair and then like he just disappears.
And then the fight scenes, there's just nothing there. Half the time you can't see what's happening.
Because they use like
jumbled mess.
The smoky blur.
And then the other half time just slow motion stuff. Like, all right, we get enough of that from Zack Snyder. Like,
I feel like they had to do the slow motion because it was hard to see what was going on.
Yeah, and then it just still isn't cool, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't mind slow motion shots. Like I actually like them a lot, but they were overused here a lot in this film. But I feel like the smoky, when Jared, Morbius is doing his thing, flying and flipping around. It's very, I feel like the smoke was kind of just more of like a cover up or just like a substitute for like the gook, the goo of the symbiote. So it is what it is, but I mean, it's like, would you say this is like when I say the worst Marvel movie, like I'm talking like access every Marvel movie you've seen.
I actually had that thought when I was walking out of the theater. I was trying to evaluate in my head, like go through and think of what actually is the worst Marvel movie. And I was trying to get a little list together because this made me think of that. That's how low this is. I mean, you have to dig down deep, like Elektra, Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, I was just about to
like you have to go really deep. Like it's close. I don't know. It might be it's definitely I think it definitely is bottom 5.
It's I don't know if it is the absolute worst, but I do agree it is 100% bottom of the barrel.
There's just nothing to offer and then nothing to remember. It doesn't even like lead into anything. Mm-mm. And then the mid-credit scene just undoes the entire movie basically.
Yeah, there's a few things. So let's quickly hear, ladies and gentlemen, you have been warned. That is your first warning for your spoilers of Morbius. Again, this is your second spoiler warning. So if you haven't seen it, turn back, go watch it. I still think people should go see this movie. Again, we're just giving our our comments, our questions and concerns about, we're big Marvel shills here. It's just superhero fans in general. And it's just, this one just didn't really do for us, but that doesn't mean that we're not telling you not to go see it. I think everyone should go see it and form their own opinion. Like I've said with multiple other movies, there's a lot of movies out there that people absolutely love that I'm not super crazy about. So it's all about perspective. So
that's all good and dandy, but I would advise not seeing it.
I hate it when people go and like hate watch it. Like obviously I did see, the scores beforehand. I had low expectations. I'm like, maybe it will surprise me. I don't know. I feel like Venom 2 surprised me like a little bit more. I'm like, wow, this is like really, the runtime for Venom 2 was super short. For Morbius, I felt like it wasn't super bad. Like I felt like by the time that it ended was around the time I was like ready to go. But yeah, let's get into spoilers here really quick. So I guess let's just talk about the 2 post-credit scenes first, and then I guess we'll get into the third act. There is really isn't too much.
Bats. That's all it is.
Batman.
Bats.
There's Batman flying around, flipping and killing people. I did like how, it kind of reminds me of like the Twilight Factor. You have the Edward Cullen, the quote unquote vegan vampires who consume blood through animals. Jared was trying to sustain himself with the artificial blood, the quote unquote blue blood, and then obviously human blood for Matt Smith. Why? I don't know. Jared Leto just didn't go out and fish for some, some lamb, some livestock.
Yeah, he's a good guy up until the mid-credit scene.
Up until the mid-credit scene, then he starts, twisting some heads.
For some reason.
Yeah, and how do you feel about Adrian Toomes just like appearing in this?
That's the thing. He was in the trailer.
Yeah.
And so obviously Sony's just using the MCU connection as like a draw to try to get people to see this movie. But he is not in the movie. He's straight up just not in the movie.
Not at all.
Mid-credit. So it's just so deceptive because they showed him as a main part of that trailer. He's like, "Hello, doctor." That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They don't do that at all. And that just makes the mid-credit worse too, because we know he's in it. So it's not a surprise. Mid-credits are supposed to be a surprise for what's coming next, not something you already know.
That is true. And you know what? IMDb actually gives it away because, like I said before, who's casted in this? If you go through IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, through the casting crew on Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, obviously he's there, but he's not in like the main 6 that are there. It's Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria, Jared Harris, Tyrese Gibson, so on and so forth. But he's not even mentioned in like, the main 6 that cast and crew for Morbius on Rotten Tomatoes. So on IMDb, he's like the second person mentioned. So, but like obviously we knew he was in the movie, like you said, due to the trailers, but he's in the movie, but he's in a post-credit scene. So it's like, yeah, it really is milking.
And here's the thing about it. In the initial first post-credits, mid-credit scene, he gets zapped from Doctor Strange's spell back into this Sony universe, into a prison cell, but it's not his world. His first line is, "I hope the food's better here."
Well, yeah, that was the weird part. Why? Okay, you bring him in to the Sony Spider-Man villain verse, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. But why is he still in a jail cell?
None of it makes any sense. Why does he get let out? They just let him out.
Yeah.
He's in a jail uniform, but they're like, "Oh, we don't know who Adrian Toomes is, so you're good to go." So what do you mean?
Like you might as
he's in jail for a reason.
Like they might as well have just transported him just somewhere, just anywhere else besides the jail cell.
And not only that, it's like they're changing his character completely. Because the homecoming Vulture was all about his family. That's all he cared about. He was just trying to provide for his family, even if it took doing illegal things. That's all he cared about.
Yeah.
But now he gets transferred to a different universe, and he just doesn't care about his family. His first thought is, "I hope food better." Like that's what he's worried about now.
Good old Spider.
And then he meets up with Morbius in the desert, and they both are just bad guys now, hunting Spider-Man. For what reason?
Michael Morbius doesn't even know who Spider-Man is.
Yeah. And why is he a bad guy now? He's supposed to be the good guy.
Not even only that, in the trailer, they tease Spider-Man. Like murderer. But like it's even worse because they didn't like just use like a graphic from like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They used Tobey Maguire's suits from Spider-Man. It's a graphic still image from Spider-Man PS4. And it just says murderer on it. I'm like, you guys really just like, that was terrible. And I'm like, okay, like if he's in the trailer, that's fine. Like you can mention him, but like, where's Spider-Man? Like Michael Morbius does not know who Spider-Man is, like at all. Wow.
And then they're just going to set up the Sinister Six in the Sony universe.
They already did their Sinister Six. It's called No Way Home. Move
going to be
on.
Under their control, and it's not going to be enjoyable.
No, it's not. And I mean, of course, you know they're going to have Tom Holland there because Tom Holland brings in the big bucks. But do you think this movie is going to hit the $1 billion box club? No.
Please no.
I don't know, man. Well, didn't both Venom movies hit the $1 billion? I know the first one did. Did the second one?
Yeah, those are at least entertaining.
Yeah, that's very true. This one's not entertaining. There was just nothing really funny about it.
There's nothing redeeming. Like, name one part where you're like, oh, that was cool. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I'm like actually trying to think. I mean, I'm really trying to think of what I liked. I mean, because I think there are a lot of good ideas here. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, if you're going to have Matt Smith as, you know, as Lucius Crown, you know, that being Michael Morbius' like best friend, that's fine. But then it's like, they're literally, it's just two sides of the same coin. Like they're not, this is Slytherin and Gryffindor all over again. There's nothing different whatsoever. And it's like, I mean, I guess the turmoil was there, you know, when Morbius, you know, he transforms himself and he realizes it's more of a curse than a blessing. Like, yeah, he's quote unquote cured, but like at a price. And then Lucius just doesn't really care. He just wants to be cured. But it's like, you know, he kind of starts like understanding the effects where he's like, oh, like I can't sleep, things like that. And I just wish they would have expanded on something. But I wanted this to be more of like a thriller, like horror type. I mean, because this would have been the perfect opportunity to do so. They did not deliver for a movie that was supposed to come out, what, 3-4 years ago?
Something like that.
I mean, it was honestly, when it got delayed until April 1st, I was like, this movie's going to be delayed until the afterlife. Just watch.
I wish it was an April Fool's joke.
I wish it was too, but unfortunately not. So, yeah, let's wrap up here. Let's give our final thoughts and our ratings. I'll pass it over to Devin, then I'll go, and then we'll close on out.
I mean, I don't know the history of our ratings, but I think we might have a new all-time low. I
need to start keeping a record of our ratings.
I'm trying to figure out how low I can actually go.
I mean, you can go as low as you want.
But I mean, just for myself, like I understand what you're saying where it's hard to make a movie, but that's more so for like the smaller independent type movies. This is Sony. This is a big studio. Yeah, they don't have that excuse. Like they don't get that empathy because they shouldn't be able to put stuff out that is this week. Like they're a big studio. They have the money.
That is
true.
They have
the budget.
If they can make something amazing as Spider-Verse, and people love Spider-Verse, like I've gone back and forth. I'm like, is No Way Home my favorite Spider-Man movie or is it Spider-Verse? Right now, I think it is Spider-Verse. It's because it is the leg up is that it is animated and it's just amazing. But that is a very good point. You know, this isn't A24 or Neon or anything of that nature with these smaller indie films. But it is, I would agree.
It's like you don't really get to have that excuse because you're a big studio. This shouldn't be the product that you're putting out. I mean, it just feels lazy at this point because it does feel like a copy of Venom 1. You get the main guy who gets their power attached to them. They have to get used to it. Then their friend also gets the same thing, and then they fight each other at the end. It's a terrible fight. Can't tell what's going on.
This fight was terrible.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like it was over in like 5 minutes. Not even.
Yeah, you can't tell what's happening. They're just kind of slapping each other, and then bats show up and save the day. That's the entirety of the fight.
Batman comes in. For Martine, So she's alive.
Sure.
I don't know how that happened. I thought she died. Like
he's better, and I guess in this world, vampire bites turn you.
I knew he like fed on her blood to like, you know, keep the drive going, but I didn't. Since when did he make her into a vampire? Or
and why is she so interested in him anyways?
Yeah, man, she's got a PhD. She can do it. No.
Yeah.
And Michael Morbius over here, you know, just denying, you know, prizes from Nobel prizes from Switzerland and whatnot. But oh well, I mean, it is what it is. But I do apologize. Are you done with your
your final thoughts? I mean, I'm gonna go with like a 33. I mean, that's got to be an all-time low on our podcast. I just can't remember a movie doing less for me because I cannot think of one time where I had enjoyment.
I might go with like just like a quarter, just like a solid 25. Like I said,
I'll go lower then because I don't want to be higher than you.
I'll give it like a solid 25% just because I'm nice.
I'll go with 21.
Because I mean, like I said, I do not think like out of every Marvel movie we've had, I'm not even talking MCU, like we said, Elektra, Daredevil, X-Men Origin Wolverine, X-Men Last Stand. Actually, X-Men Last Stand is way better than this, but
Howard the Duck.
There's
the
OG. The OG. I mean, Spider-Man 3 is better than this, y'all. Like, I'm sorry. It's something. But again, these are just two man's thoughts and opinions. We do, or at least I do, recommend people to go see it. Form your own opinion. If you are excited for the movie, that is fantastic. We're not here to tell you otherwise. But yeah, I'm just gonna go with the 25%.
And we talked about it before, but definitely the worst mid-credit scene ever.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. He's like, we should talk. Nothing. He's like, okay. I'm like, and then it just ends.
Was it just me, or did that not sound like Michael Keaton at the end? When he was in the Vulture outfit. It was like, who is this? That does not sound like Michael Keaton.
They did upgrade on his outfit for sure. I will say that.
But it's like it sounded like someone else did the voiceover. It was so weird.
Maybe. Well, it might have been like, you know, the voiceover boost, because sometimes they do that with like specific films, or like, you know, like far away shots, and they have them in the voice box. But I don't know. It's weird. It's Batman meeting Batman, which is I just don't understand. Like, okay, yeah, like Morbius killed his friends, and then what happens next? Does he become a hero? Is he a villain? Is he just
going in the mid-credit scene? He's just a bad guy.
He's just walking in between the line of good and evil. I guess so.
He hates Spider-Man for some reason.
Never even met the dude a day in his life. But yeah, that pretty much concludes our Morbius review here on the podcast. Again, definitely go see it if you're excited for it. We're not here to like we might be tearing certain movies to shreds. But I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know if okay, would you rather see this again or Uncharted?
Neither.
But as I said before, that does wrap up our episode here for today. Definitely go check it out in theaters if you haven't already. So what's coming up in the podcast, you might ask? We actually just recorded our Moon Knight episode 1 review that is out on the podcast right now. And we also have our The Lost City review that is up on the podcast for people to listen to. So you can listen to our thoughts about that over there. And we also have coming up on the podcast, we have our Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 review that will be coming out sometime second week of April. We also have our Everything Everywhere All at Once review coming up as soon as it's available for everyone to watch wherever. But we also have our Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review. Very excited. You know, we reviewed the first one a few years back, so very excited to jump back into that world again. So those are just a few things coming up on the podcast and a few things that are out. Again, you can check out our other reviews that we've been doing throughout the beginning of this year, and make sure to always share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it is. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a friend in need. So that pretty much wraps up everything here today, and we hope you guys have a great start to your week, And we'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
We are Venom. I'm just kidding.
He didn't even say that.
Michael Morbius, at your service.
Yeah, he didn't even say that last
I was
part.
actually hoping for him to say that, but I'm like, how is this random thug gonna know who Morbius is? I'm like, maybe Venom.
How do you know who Venom is?
I'm
Just
surprised
'cause
Venom wasn't there. Where's Venom?